Hey, what's up?
What's all this?
Press conference, airport, phone.
Oh, right. Okay. Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you.
No, I'll just stand out there.
Okay. Getting my hair done and all of this. And of course, well, while I was getting shampooed, I was I
Hello.
Hey, hi Cheryl. Oh, thanks. David, we keep meeting under awful circumstances.
Thank you. I told him from his lunch.
You look great.
So anyway, well
Just in
done.
case there's questions, and I suspect there will be, and
Yeah.
we'll, I don't know if any state departments are going to be here.
I don't know.
Um,
I tried to avoid the three counselor
Yeah, I
thing,
know,
so
I know.
Jamie was kind of
yeah. So this is a
Oh, thank you.
noticed event then. So we can
Yes.
all meet
Yeah.
the
It
council.
Yeah, you got my email back.
but the planning
Yeah.
earlier.
Yeah.
It's certainly protected from liability by the joint articles but in fact,
Well,
I sent you this, so it's
but then
sorry,
you
but
can
what
say
it is,
it
Harold
at least in
was
the
totally
print.
apropos.
Yeah.
business impact perspective, yes, just from a day-to-day operation perspective, right? For sure.
Now it turned out to be
So
nothing
that's
but
what
a
I'm saying.
story.
Well, and thank you, but my concern is the amount of time that I spent on this the last 3 weeks, right? And I don't know what my hourly rate is, but it's a major distraction, major impact, and major impact in
I'm sorry.
but there's a certain amount of these that it's
I don't think so. Let's just make sure. Are you good? So I'm gonna first on these two guys. Wait, what? Seriously? Is Poppy here?
Yes, she's here, and David Page is here, just in case there's questions.
If anyone wants to stand up behind us, they're welcome to join us.
Okay.
I don't yeah, thank you everyone for your patience. Just trying to, oh, what? I'm going to start in just a second, and apologies, our printer was fighting us. Yeah, it's close. Type behind us. The Poppy's gonna come up. Let's see, is there anything else that we're missing? Anything else we're missing? I think we're good. Here, let me put it right there, Jim. Just want to make sure we're not getting feedback. Sorry, AV nerd here. Yes, okay, you're good. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us on such short notice. We will have a few speakers today representing the Brunswick delegation as well as the town of Brunswick. I will be joined by Representative Dan Ankleys as well as Town Council Chair Abby King. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Representative Ankleys.
Thank you, everybody. My name is Representative Dan Ankleys. I represent House District 100 in the Maine House of Representatives, which is the same House district where the spill occurred. This morning, I woke up and checked the Press Herald, as I always do, and then I saw the front page above the fold headline, and my stomach went into my throat. I can't overstate this enough. My constituents and I should not be learning about inspectors determining that there are deficiencies in the fire suppression system in a newspaper article that comes out several weeks after the spill. My constituents are angry, and they do not deserve this. They are asking for accountability, and they are specifically asking for it this afternoon, from the Redevelopment Authority. After today's revelations, I have a hard time disagreeing. Our first charge as public officials, elected or appointed, is the health and well-being of the public. It needs to take priority over everything, including economic development. I have already submitted 3 pieces of legislation directly related to the inventory and removal of AFFF foam. But the legislature won't be in session until December and January, and today makes it clear that we cannot wait that long. Today's report underscores the urgency of the situation. We still have the toxic foam equivalent of ticking time bombs in other hangars. And knowing now that inspectors have already identified deficiencies in these systems means we need to act now. regardless of statutory authority, regardless of codes and regulations, those fire suppression systems must be immediately shut down while we work with the Mills administration to get the legislative response right. I'm confident that DEP will continue to work hard on testing, remediation, and constituent response, and your elected officials at both the state and local level will continue to advocate for you. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Abby King, the chair of the Brunswick Town Council. Thank you everyone for being here, again on short notice, as Senator Daughtry said. As you know, we are confronted today with the revelation presented in this morning's Portland Press Herald. I wasn't aware of this information outlined in the June 2023 report until reading it in the paper this morning. As such, the Town Council has not had the opportunity to meet to discuss the latest developments. On September 3rd, 2024, the Brunswick Town Council passed a resolution calling on MIRA and our state and federal legislators to work immediately to address the issue of the spill and all of its short and long-term consequences. Our hope has been to work collaboratively to improve communication and see the actions outlined in the resolution come to fruition. It is extremely concerning that the problems with the system weren't communicated either at the time of discovery or in the interim since the spill. As a resident of Brunswick, I personally find the omission deeply disturbing, and I plan to bring it to Council for discussion next Monday. Thank you to everyone who has reached out to us with their concerns and participated in our public discussions. As a council, public safety in the town of Brunswick is our utmost priority, and we will continue to address this issue with that foremost in our minds. Thank you. Oh, hopefully that doesn't fall.
Good afternoon. I share the comments of my colleagues who have spoken before me that this was something that none of us expected to wake up and find out from a newspaper today. The news has shaken my confidence in the management and leadership of the Mid-Coast Regional Redevelopment Authority, and I am concerned about their ability to manage safety in light of recent failings, and especially because of the increased awareness of the lack of transparency and what appears to be a cover-up, miscommunication, or non-sharing of safety standards. Since I woke up this morning, my phone has been ringing off the hook, and my email inbox has been completely filled from constituents with deep-seated concerns and frustrations about what we've learned about the inspection report. We need to ensure constituents and neighbors that the landing is safe to live, work, and play. And this requires clear and consistent communication. And I want to say, a posting on a website does not suffice in matters of public health, especially when you have people who are living there, who are working there, when we have childcare, when we have food production, we have manufacturing. In moments like these, we need to make sure that everyone's getting the word out and that it's not just through hearsay. My fear of a disaster or situation like this is what led me to sponsor a bill in the Maine State Legislature when I was first elected to serve Brunswick over a decade ago. Unfortunately, it passed in the House but was killed in the Senate. That bill would have ensured that there is municipal representation from the town of Brunswick on the board of MIRA and bake into the statute direct communication so that when something like this happens, that there is a clear chain of command and operating procedures. We need those clear channels of communication because it is inherently clear now, almost a month after the spill, that this is not working. I do want to say that the Department of Environmental Protection and the commissioners have been an excellent partner in testing and communicating throughout this entire emergency situation, as has the CDC and the incredible state help from our drinking water program, who has been working with our municipality to ensure that our drinking water continues to be safe, as well as I'm grateful for the DEP for the work that'll be starting to work with private well owners on testing. I want to thank the state and the governor's administration for their engagement and being communicative partners, and their assistance has been invaluable. I also want to thank the town of Brunswick for their diligence and constant communication. But all of this stands in stark contrast in the process with the Midcoast Regional Redevelopment Authority. With today's news about the inspection report, the delegation today is calling for the immediate resignation of Executive Director Christine Logan. From that piece, it says that she's aware of a known danger when she learned from last year's inspection report, yet failed to disclose it in order to protect our region, our environment, and our coastline. One of the multitude of concerns I have is the impact that the spill may have not only on our public health, but also on things like our fishermen fishing in our waters, our local aquaculture. I have friends who have farms not that far from that spill. It not only could be costly to them, but to the state and the town. None of them needed to board the expense of this when there was a report saying that there were deficiencies in that system. In light of this, I also urge the current board to consider their role in all of this and to consider whether they might do the same as resignation or how to improve this process and step up to continue to be willing partners. I'm also calling for the immediate shutoff of fire suppression systems in hangars 5 and 6 and doing this in a manner that does not disrupt our airport. We have not been able to see the inspection reports from these hangars as well, and there's been inconsistent information on potential leaks coming out of hangar 6. I'm also calling for the immediate release of all of those reports as well. What's clear is that we need to continue to work together on establishing clear, frequent, open, and strong communication channels during this continued emergency response and going forward into the future. Also, I'm calling today that we think carefully, not only as a state and a municipality, but as a community, about the reorganization of MIRA for increased accountability and oversight. Environmental stewardship and public transparency needs to be central to this. I just want to say again, environmental disasters do not know municipal boundaries. They don't recognize where MIRA's authority boundary begins and where the town of Brunswick begins. An environmental spill knows no boundaries like that. And what bothers me the most is this is not just an entity. This is our home, and it needs to be treated as such. Thank you so much for coming, and we're happy to take a few questions.
Have you had any communication with MIRA today about all this?
We have. I am hoping to, I have a meeting with Christine Logan tomorrow morning that I hope to continue to discuss this with her as well. And we did hear from her in late after the press release.
What about the call? Did they respond at all to, you're calling for an immediate shut-off of the fire suppression system. Did they respond to that at all?
Not yet, but we'll be communicating with them immediately after this press conference. Mal.
At this point, you have not actually seen the inspection report, though?
No. I do know that they're reported on, and we've been in communication in the hopes to have those reports, so I'm hoping the second I open my phone that they'll be in there.
You said it sounds like you're saying you believe this was a cover-up?
I don't know if that's the exact word I'd want to use. I'd say negligence is probably the more accurate word. I think about when you read anything that a system is failing, that you should be taking that very seriously and communicating. I mean, we've had conversations at the state level, and I might defer more to my colleague, Representative Ankeles, about what MIRA needs for infrastructure. And I do want to be clear that they inherited a charge of a large entity from the Navy when it was decommissioned with an aging infrastructure and the need for improvements. What I am increasingly frustrated by is the fact that this was not brought up in an immediate funding request to the legislature or communicated with the town. If they found out in 2023 that there were deficiencies in the system, that is something that should have gone immediately to the top of the line for requests for assistance.
If she does not resign, is there anything that can be done?
Well, the legislature does have control over the statute, but we do not have the mechanism within the existing statute to remove any of the board members. So what I am committing to, and I know that my colleagues will as well, is ensuring that we have a thorough investigation at the state level with the committees of jurisdiction, demanding information about not only what went wrong, but what are the next steps. And I will be introducing pieces of legislation that are based off of what we hear in that process and what we all learn together as a community to make the changes. One of the other things that's inherently clear as we're moving forward into this next phase of redevelopment is that it's no longer just about, a real estate transfer. It's about looking at what the next phase of this entity is that's within our home.
I have a couple questions about basically for the town, so I don't know if that's a better question for the town or maybe other representatives here have ever formally requested inspection report information from Mira in the past. And I'm also curious, I'm not sure if the fire department is here today, if the fire department had any awareness that there were deficiencies in the system as of last year.
We don't have anyone here from the fire department, but that's something we can completely get you.
Maddie, could you repeat the question?
Oh, absolutely.
Thank you.
So the question, and please correct me if I'm paraphrasing incorrectly, is that wondering whether the municipality or the fire department had requested the reports, and I am not in a position to answer that, but we can get that information for you afterwards.
Is there like a clear chain of command that Mira should have reached out to if deficiencies like this pop up?
Yeah, I mean, I think your question kind of cuts to the core of the problem, right? The level of oversight is the executive director certainly reports to her board, and the organization as a whole, all it really has to do when it comes to state level accountability is provide an annual report to the legislature. And as my colleague will tell you, every time that has happened, there's never any mention of AFFF or PFAS at all. And that's before you even talk about accountability to the town. There isn't any. The whole issue with this is that the town, for too long, has been disempowered. It is not sustainable to have a town within a town. That just doesn't work. And it certainly doesn't work this late into the redevelopment process when we've had a faster integration of the former Naval Air Base into the town than we've ever had. So I think your question cuts right to it. It's not really clear what kind of chain of command exists at all. And I think Senator Daughtry, in her potential legislation, would change that fundamentally.
And if I can just add, while it might not be in statute, I think one of the biggest frustrations that I've heard from friends who not only have businesses on the landing quite near where the spill happened, but also from folks who are living there or folks who have children in the childcare facilities, is that immediate information wasn't gotten out while the foam was being cleaned up. And the posting on the website isn't sufficient. There needs to be mechanisms for Mira, whether it was putting up signs, whether it was doing what we've done with all of you today and putting out a press release instantly to be able to have that communication. What was clear is that folks who are living, working on the landing didn't receive that communication. And I've spoken to individuals, I spoke to a homeowner yesterday who still hasn't received that level of communication. And it's hard in these emergency situations to know what to do, but it seems at the very least there should have been an increase of communication going above and beyond and trying to use every channel that's available to us as human beings in a modern society to communicate. Don't go near the foam, cleanup is happening, please check this link for updated information. And so even if that wasn't in statute, that's something that is fundamentally needs to happen in all situations. I mean, I think about when we have a parking ban here in the town, we all get the notice or the email that there's a parking ban going on. That was what didn't happen in these situations, that flow of information, and that needs to change.
So you're talking about down the line, maybe in the somewhat distant future, study as to whether Mira should continue to exist in its present form.
We're looking at having a clear conversation about its charge, and I would say that everything is on the board, but I don't want to be prescriptive in a response when we all as a community are still getting answers.
Can the town provide updates on the communication situation? I know at the special meeting, Jeffrey Jordan went in basically committed to do some outreach in terms of getting people on Mira's email list. I also am assuming that there's going to come pretty consistent updates with that and how that's going to go. Has the town heard anything on Mira's side on what's going to be done in terms of communication issues or otherwise?
Yes, I've met with Director Logan, and the manager Henze has met with her as well several times in the past week. We have offered to make use of the town's communication system, so the Notify Me system, which goes out to people as blasts either on email or text or both, whatever you select. We're planning to put that in place and to allow Mira to put information make information available through that system. We're also going to be sending out a postcard to, I believe, everyone in town to let them know about Notify Me. You do have to sign up for it, so we want to make sure people are aware that that is an option. You can be notified about many issues, but MIRA hasn't been one of the topics you could subscribe to in the past, and so we're looking to make that change as soon as possible.
And one more question. I'm curious how the town and representatives who are here are going to approach getting information from MIRA in the future, given this omission of really important details that are over a year old. I'm curious if there's going to be any level of rigorous fact-checking involved or anything of the sort.
So as I said, we haven't been able to meet as a group yet because this information just came out this morning, but I anticipate that that will be part of the conversation that we have next Monday.
And I'll add, Abby, on your point about continued communication and fact-checking and working together, one of the things that my office has done since we learned of this morning is pull all statutes covering it, annual reports, as well as any other information that we were able to receive around AFFF, as well as trying to get a centralized source for all the reporting. And I stand committed with my colleagues to do everything we can to get that information. And regardless of our calls today for accountability with not only the executive director and the board, we stand ready to work as a team. It's just that has to be something that everyone is committed to moving forward. And it's a stark contrast between the conversations and the incredible willingness of folks. Even, Commissioner Loisem came here to this town to answer questions from the public and, brought the state toxicologist. It's stark contrast between that level of commitment and communication versus, how we've been finding things out in piecemeal style as well. We're probably in for 2 more.
I want to ask a bottom line question here. You've had conversations with MIRA. Do you get a sense that MIRA really believes this is a serious incident, this spill, or are they inclined to just view this as an annoyance on the way to their next economic development deal?
That's a question that I urge you to direct to Executive Director Logan.
And you said you had a meeting tomorrow with Logan.
Yep.
Just what information, what do you hope really just comes out of that meeting?
I want to hear what is going to change. I want to not just hear excuses. I want to hear what the next steps are. I know it can be very hard when you're dealing with something of this magnitude, but what I want to hear is how they're going to communicate with businesses, how they're going to ensure that everything is safe. I've even noticed that things have been canceled on the landing, but there's been no clear, concise communication for folks who are trying to make their livelihoods or live there. So I want to know what they're doing to communicate with not only every person who lives out there, but everyone who recreates or works out there, and how they're going to go above and beyond to rebuild the trust that frankly is broken in light of today's news.
So I was part of when Mira became charged as a selectman in the town of Thompson.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds to me like somewhere along the line in the last whatever months and years, there's been no communications with either monthly or quarterly reports from Mira to the town of Brunswick, to the town of Thompson Select Board about even activities, let alone a major disaster. So I guess that's the first question.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any thought that through this legislation or through the town that you're going to try to resolve Mira?
As I was saying to Jim, I think everything's on the board, but I don't want to commit to prescriptive policies. But I do want to thank you for your question about the boards and the reports. That raises an issue that something we've been talking about is the fact it's very hard if you're on the MIRA website to find anything about their board meetings, about their agendas. We as individuals have to operate under, the freedom of access and public information law, and it doesn't seem that those materials are easily accessible. I can also say, under the statute, the MIRA is required to submit an annual report to the Committee of Jurisdiction, which is the IDEA committee in the Maine legislature, as well as the Legislative Council, which is made up of the 10 leaders of the Maine legislature on an annual basis. And so we have received those, but we haven't received regular communications or updates on what those board meetings are doing. And that's something that really, really should change.
So there's no requirement for them to report to the two towns that they're overseeing on a monthly or quarterly basis on anything?
No, there's not in the existing statute. And that was one of the reasons why I introduced the bill when I first came into the Maine legislature, was wanting to open that conversation and make sure that at the heart of our efforts to really, and you know, it is a success story. I mean, think about how many businesses, how many homes, how many people are living out there. And I think the success makes it all the more necessary for us to have, you know, over communication, transparency, and trust in this entity. You can probably take one more question. Yeah.
I'll follow up on, you're talking about foam today. There's still land down there that has not been developed.
Yep.
And there's unknown and known hazards in the ground down there. What is going forward with even the military base that said they would clean up the land to a certain level before it became developed, before Mira could take it over, and before the town had responsibility for restarting over and trying to get to a lot of those answers? There's still a lot of undeveloped land down there that has potential hazards down here.
Your question is exactly why we're calling for more communication today, because that's not something that I have the information to be able to answer. It's definitely a question that Mira should be able to answer for us and be able to have that type of information moving forward. With that, seeing no further...
add something to that? I mean, and to your point, this is why you want the town to have some ability to have a say. If there are ever any new projects, you want to be able to have town people asking those environmental questions, because otherwise, where's the oversight? Where's the guarantee to everyone already living there that you're not making it worse?
I'm just going to follow up with a question comment. When this all started, we was told by the state government, federal government, that we needed a mirror board and the local government needed to stay out of it.
Yep.
It was a big piece of land. That's the fundamental problem we got here today. I was on the board for 12 years. I watched you grow. I understand the concern. But fundamentally, one, I don't see mirror going away, because I don't think the town wants to take over all the infrastructure down there, the roads that you would have to plow, you would have to maintain, the sidewalks you would have to plow. So the biggest thing is we got to have a better communication chain of command, and it needs to happen pretty quick.
Yep.
There's a lot more land down there that could be developed.
Agreed. And what you mentioned about the charge of asking locals to stay at it was something that I took issue with from the moment that I had the honor of being elected by this community to be their representative. And as I said before, something this big and this important, you know, you need every asset you can to be able to work forward on redevelopment and protection of this precious resource in our community. So with that, I do want to thank everyone for coming. We will make all the materials we were able to get available, and as Chair King said, they're working on making sure there's an opt-in system for increased communication. And I also once again want to echo the gratitude, I know this came together really quickly, for everyone being able to come out here today. And we'll also make sure that our contact information for constituents who are trying to get information, as well as some other forms, are made available. And with that, thank you so much.